Hey guys, Tamao here from Pokemon TCG HQ bringing you another video. Today I'm going to be giving a deck breakdown of my favourite deck from the standard format, which is Vespiquen. So I've played Vespiquen in 4 regionals so far this season. I'll only be going into 3 of the builds because one of them was before the latest set came out. But so yeah, I basically took it to 4 regionals, tweaked it a lot every regional because I was just experimenting and having fun, to be honest. I was only really going for a mini invite, assuming it's 300 points this season. So I did manage to get 1 top 8 at a regional, and I also managed to get to the final of another regional. So even with these kooky builds that you'll see coming up, it can perform and still be very fun to play and very hard to play as well at the same time. But I had a lot of fun with it. So I'll go into my skeleton list for now, and this is the basic list that I built every deck around because I think these are the cards that should go in it every time. So 3 Shaman speaks for itself. I would want 4, but I don't own 4, so that's my own limitation. But you could play 4 and that'd be absolutely fine. It's not even that bad to start with, to be honest. Lets you draw, and if you don't need them, you just discard them because this is Vespiquen. It doesn't really care what it discards. 4/4 Vespiquen, great attacker. 20 plus 10 for each Pokemon in your discard pile, so you just pile whatever you can on with battle compressors and junior sycamores, and do as much damage as you can. Basically, your aim is to one-hit KO everything and not really care about what comes up against you. This is probably my favourite thing about the deck. There's not much that really blocks this deck. So I was always frustrated playing against stuff like Regice and anything like that would just stop some Pokemon or most of your Pokemon in their tracks. Vespiquen doesn't really care about much apart from maybe Giratina and stopping you attaching double colourless energies. That's about it really. And you can build your deck in ways to counter that, so I'll hopefully go over some of that as well. So this is brilliant attacker. 4 battle compressor to get stuff in the discard, easy. 1 super rod, it's so important. One tournament match I had to discard 4 Vespiquen turn 1. You can't win those games. You have to have some form of recovery. Before Super Rod was legal, you had to play Sacred Ash. Even though getting 5 Pokemon from your discard is horrible, you had to play it because sometimes you have to discard some horrible things with this deck and there's not much you can do about it unless you run on recovery. 4 Ultra Ball discards cards and gets you Pokemon, perfect card in deck. And 4 Vespiquen, because we like to play thin support accounts. And as you see, I've played one-offs of a lot. So 1 AZ to pick stuff up. It's also like a Bianca in the old format because you just use it to pick up Shaman, to draw more cards. You use it to pick up stuff like Crobats in some other decks, some other of your variants of this deck. Really good card. Free switch as well. Bridget, I love this card. It lets you search for 3 basic Pokemon and put it on your bench. You never use it for the EX obviously because it's only Shaman in this deck, but there's some matchups where this is crucial, and things like Milotic bats and Lucario bats where you need to get more than 2 Combees down turn 1, because if you don't, they can easily kill 2 and knock out 2 on the bench. So Bridget helps shore up these matchups. You get out 3 Combees turn 1, they maybe kill 2, but you get 1 going, you super rod the other Combees back in, and you're pretty much good to go from there. So this card I feel is a staple. I've not seen many people like auto include this card in, but after I've played this card at every single regional I've been to, barring the one it wasn't legal, so never regretted putting this card in at all. 1 Lysander, pretty staple in this format. 3 Sycamore, you could probably go down to 2 in some lists, but I think this deck should play 4 just because the discard mechanic of the card is very powerful with the synergy of the deck. So I'd suggest you play 4. I've put it down to 3 as a staple, but that's just my opinion on it. Teammates, because things are getting knocked out left, right and centre. It's a really easy way to search out double colourless energy. So I think this is a very important card. And talking of which, for DC, this is going to be the main fuel for your deck. So I've talked about the the actual core of the deck. I had a lot of fun and I experimented a lot with this deck over regionals. I didn't really do much testing, and I used regionals as my testing ground. So I'll go through some of the decks. Well, I'll go through every single list that I played at regionals. So the things I liked and the things I didn't like, because there's plenty of both. So we're going to the first, the first regional I'll talk about quickly was was in Sutton Coldfield that I played Vespiquen, and I went 3-0-4. So I didn't lose any games, but I drew a lot. And I kind of realised that I didn't know the deck well enough. I played too slow, that's my own fault. I probably would have won at least 3 of those matches that I drew. I know 2 of them I was going to win next turn. And I probably would have won the other, and the 4th was like a coin flip kind of situation. So, knowing that was my own fault, I decided I'd probably just stick with Vespiquen for a long time, because it was a deck that I enjoyed playing that tournament, even though I didn't get into cut or anything like that. So 3-0-4 at that tournament. The next tournament we went to was Wales, and this is where I started experimenting. So you can actually see a few videos of me playing this deck on Ross Gilbert's channel, PTCG Radio. 1 win and 1 loss, but it does showcase the deck a bit, I guess. Although I did draw very, very badly in the game that I did lose. So I went 4-2 on the day, but I was 4-0, and the only 4-0 after round 4. And I was unlucky not to get paired up against somebody I could ID with both rounds, because I got paired down twice at that point. So I ended up going 4-2, which was frustrating, because it would have been sweet to get this build into cut, but that's how it goes sometimes. So I went with a Yveltal Bats kind of build, which is standard, but I decided to cut on the bat line a bit, cut on everything a bit really, and really skimp out and add these little fun texts in that I thought I wanted to see, are these actually any good? They seem good in theory. So we have the 1/1 Ariados line. Ariados is actually poison, so it's a guaranteed 10 or 20 damage if they survive coming back into your turn. 10 or 20 damage guaranteed every turn. Seemed good in theory, was largely irrelevant. It got me 1 KO around a focus sash over the day that I probably could have done with a bat drop anyway. So I wouldn't recommend this card personally. The next card was Octillery. Over the course of 6 rounds I drew 1 card and it was inconsequential. So I couldn't really strongly recommend this card, but it seemed really cool to be able to put in your deck, and you can just discard it anyway, so maybe this can have a place in this deck, but I feel like you draw well enough anyway with Unknown R's stuck on your bench, so probably couldn't recommend it. This card, however, you'll see I play in every single list in the future. Was an absolute MVP throughout the whole day. Didn't expect it to be the best tech out of the 3, but its ability to get anything back from discard, mainly DCs, but often I actually used it for supporters. That's why I found it was the strongest merit for this card. So I decided to include this card in every deck from there on in, because it was absolutely integral. Also Unknown. Now, I didn't put it in the skeleton list, but I personally wouldn't ever anymore run less than 4, especially in a judge heavy format, because this absolutely destroys judge strategies and things like that. And it's a free plus power and draw a card. Like, you'd play plus power in so many decks if it was legal, and it lets you also draw a card. So I'd really recommend playing 4. The only reason I didn't was because look at all the text I was playing. I had to make space somewhere, and Unknown was the cut I decided to make. Other than that, this was the first tournament I tried Bridget in. That's when I decided that I really liked this card. This was also the tournament I tried Giovanni Scheming. I played it for 1 more tournament after, because it got me some good use on this day, because I didn't have Muscle Band in the deck, but I really don't think this card is good enough in this deck, unfortunately. Although it is really cool, I enjoy this card a lot. Other than that, very standard list, as you can see from this, compared to the skeleton. Played 4 dark, would usually like to only play 3 basic energy, but I felt if I was going to use Yveltal to counter the Night March matchup, it was probably best to play 4 energy, just to make sure I got 1 on turn 1. So that's the list for that. I will 4-2 on the day, so nothing spectacular. And on to my next experiment, I guess. So, if we click out of that, and we are going to this one. So, The next regional I went to was up in Stockton-on-Sea, up on the north coast pretty much. North coast, northeast of the country. So I really like the Yveltal and Bats concept, and I decided to just run with a very streamlined version of this. Night March was very popular in UK, so it seemed like the most sensible way to play it. However, there was one Night March in the whole venue that day. Absolutely no Night March. I got very little utility out of Yvetals, so I kind of regretted playing that. But I was happy I only played 3 because I saw most other lists play 4, which I think is overkill in the Yvetal. So as you can see, really standard list. Fleshed out the Crobat line a bit more on this one. And I still kept the Giovanni scheme. Everything else is actually very similar to the list, the teched out list, but I just took out the text and fleshed out the lines, 4 unknowns, things like that. I ended up getting to the final of this event, losing to Yveltal, Zoroark, Gallade, that deck that basically came out of nowhere from this set. I don't feel like it's that bad a matchup. It was a really close game. We only really managed the game 1, game 2 didn't finish, and game 1 basically came down to a coin flip, kind of. He had 2 prizes left and had to get one prize, one particular prize in order to stay in the game, and he did, so unfortunate, but what can you do? So this deck I feel is definitely the best deck to play in a format where Night March is semi-prevalent. Even semi-prevalent is good enough. Even though there's a lot of Night March hate in this deck, it's still good enough in its own right, just because the Night March hate you can discard it anyway. And Bats helps shore up your Lucario Bats matchup anyway. Gets rid of Focus Sash. So still, Milotic kept its spot and kept being useful throughout the whole day. In fact, my favourite moment with Milotic was being able to use it to get back a Battle Compressor in order to get from 7 Pokemon in my discard pile to, I think it was 20 Pokemon in my discard pile in order to one-hit KO a Mega Sceptile to win the game. That was probably my favourite moment of the whole tournament, because I just thought there was no way possible doing it. And getting the Ultra Ball off an unknown Ardor and thinking, I can essentially discard 5 Pokemon with this one Ultra Ball, because I can Ultra Ball for the Milotic, a Milotic for a Battle Compressor, and managed to finally just about hit 220 damage with Vespiquen, and that felt really, really good. So overall, the tournament, I was disappointed not to win it, but losing to Ryan Morehouse is fine, honestly fine, because he's a top player. So that's this list done. If we go on to our final weekend of regionals in the UK, you can see that I had a bit more fun and a lot more experimenting. And that will probably never stop even throughout cities for me with this deck, because I find it just so much more fun to chuck whatever I want in the deck and roll with it on the day. So I went with Yveltal, Zoroark, Gallade, Milotic, everything you could think of. Basically, I got to the final with Yveltal Vespiquen. I lost in the final to Zoroark, Gallade, Yveltal. And I was like, why couldn't I just mash the 2 best decks, well, the 2 top decks of that last previous weekend into one deck? So I tried to do it. This was the result. I couldn't say I could recommend this deck for a tournament, but I did actually get top 8 with the top 8 at a regional with this as 8th seed, and then I lost to Alex Dow playing a Quad Entei, I believe it is, Quad Entei deck, which just totally shuts you down with Assault Vest. So I'd 100% recommend playing 1 Startling Megaphone. I'd make space for that instantly, because you just cannot beat something that's essentially like 240 HP. So we'll go a bit into this deck. Things that I really enjoyed. Mr. Mime. So this is the first time I tried Mr. Mime, thinking Manectric Bats would be very popular. And to be honest, it was insanely good against any matchup with Bats. It stopped them being able to take cheap prizes with the actual attacks of Crobat, because you have a lot of low HP Pokemon in your deck, so and then you'll be putting them on your bench, Just protects them a bit more, but it's insane against Milotic bats, obviously. If you can project for it, turn 1 against that, you'd get 2 Cone B and Mr. Mime, I guess. It pretty much guarantees that they live on this, but they need Lysander, Muscle Band, Lightning Energy, and 2 Golbat drops, and to go first as well. So overall, I wouldn't be too worried about. You'd know when to project for Mr. Mime over a 3rd Cone B. Other things, well, obviously we talk about the 2-1-1 Zoroark break line. I'm sorry about this all being shaded out. I don't really own the cards, but it shows how much I tested it, basically. The Zoroark break, I used 0 times. I got it out once. I never used this attack. I got it out just to beef up the HP of Zoroark, and that helped. But it did nothing apart from discard fodder all day. Zoroark, on the other hand, was kind of cool. I'd maybe consider it again in deck. I'd play 1 Floatstone in order to supplement its Russian ability, or standing ability, but that didn't really do much for me all day. The Floatstone was cool. It gave me, I'd usually just attach it to a Shaman and just gave me a free retreater for the rest of the game, other than Vespiquen. Its attack let me save Vespiquen, essentially. So there were times where I could Lysander up a Shaman and knock it out of Zoroark instead of having to commit a Vespiquen to the active position. That was kind of cool, but I'm sure there are other attackers that could do the same kind of thing on a DC, so I'm not sure if it's good enough to warrant a space in the deck, especially a 2-2 line, 2-2-1 line in my case. So, kind of cool, would think about it, don't know, don't think, I'm not 100% convinced I'd play it again. Baby Yveltal slowly is becoming just absolutely obsolete. There's barely any Night March in UK anymore. Of course, as soon as I say that, everyone's going to start playing Night March now because people will stop playing stuff like Yveltal. Although Yveltal Zoroark Gallades a thing, so maybe not, but this card isn't doing me much in any matchup really. It's a really bad start with 2 retreat, so you have to commit a DC to retreat it unless you can hit an AZ, or you just let it die, and neither is ideal, so I'd probably cut this from here on in. Gallade, on the other hand, I got Gallade out 5 times across the whole day, which over so 7 rounds total, I think that equates to. Over 7 rounds I got it out 5 times, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it got me 5 wins. Like every game I got Gallade out with this deck, I'd won. It was not a question, it was just, when you get this card out, in combination with the 4 unknown R that you're already guaranteed to play in this deck, it's like a computer search every turn. And with this deck, that is so strong, because all you're doing is looking for puzzle pieces. Whether it's Battle Compressor, DC, an Ultra Ball for a Vespiquen, anything like that, it lets you search for its puzzle pieces, and this is the one thing that I'd consider beefing up and investing more into, because I'd love to be able to get Gallade out more in this deck. So Gallade gets a thumbs up from me, 100% would recommend. Everything else is pretty standard. I've tried the 1 Muscle Band and I loved it as well. I don't know if I'd play 2, but I really like the fact that I knew I had a Muscle Band in my deck sometimes. So it gave me a reason to dig, and that's sometimes all you need, like something to hope for sometimes when you need that extra 20 damage. So I'd recommend it. Just 1 Muscle Band, even though I didn't play it in any of the others, even with 28 Pokemon. Usually I'd play 30 Pokemon in a Vespiquen deck, so I played 28 and 1 Muscle Band, which is essentially the same thing. And other than that, well, obviously the 1 Maxie's Hidden Ball Trick to get Gallade out. That's all there really was. So I'll talk a bit about other cards. Sorry about that. Other cards that I'd like to put in the deck, or would have considered putting in the deck. So Bronzong. I think Bronzong is a very good choice right now. It helps shore up a Giratina matchup that's iffy, and helps you stream attackers a lot easier without having to rely on DCs. Would I still play Milotic if I was playing Bronzong? Yes, but I'd be less reliant on it, that's for sure. Bronzong would be cool also with a Zoroark-centric deck, because it will give you the ability to stand in and not have to commit a Bronzong active if they just Lysander it. So you don't have to rely on using your VS Seekers and AZ either. Flareon's one that I played at the regional before. before Breakthrough was legal, so I played the Flareon Blacksmith line because Sceptile had just won the regionals before. So I thought it was probably best to play Flareon, and I played, I think, 2 Sceptile on a day, so it paid off. That is the tournament. I did go 3-0-4 in that tournament, and I beat... Oh no, I only played 1 Sceptile, so I beat 1 Sceptile with it. Other than that, I didn't use Blacksmith, so if you're using it for the Blacksmith engine, I wouldn't recommend it because it didn't do much for me. One cool thing you can do is you can play a Vaporeon now to help you with a very, very hard Quad Entei matchup. And that's something I think, looking at this metagame, I'd have to consider because Entei is becoming very popular. So Vaporeon might just be the answer to it. There's not much else I would add on to that. I'd have to personally look through and trawl through all the cards myself and try and find other better partners for this deck, because that's all I want to do for cities. And hopefully, if you are still interested in Vespiquen, I'll be able to provide some more cities results with good good little text that I've found over the time. Maybe I've already found my my perfect combination with maybe Gallade, Bats, Bronzong, who knows. But I'll be trying a lot of stuff. So I will be playing a variant of the deck after this short segment. Don't know which one yet, you'll see in a second I guess, but if there are any questions about the deck whatsoever, for any variant, I'm very happy to answer any of them. All. So just leave a message in the comments and I'll get to them. So on to the game. So let's look at our opening hand. We have one of the things that we would like to see, which is an Ultra Ball, which is a good draw card. We don't know what matchup we're really playing against. We will probably... You could either start with Yveltal as a kind of tank to begin with, or you start with Combee. I think I'd rather start with Combee in this situation because I'm just never see myself getting a Yveltal out of the active. We don't have to bench anything because we're going first. And because I'm going first, I'm not too scared of getting my Combee knocked out. If you went second, you almost always wouldn't start with Combee, so we will bench an Unknown and go ahead and draw right off the bat. We'll discard, unfortunately, 2 Golbats, but that happens. That's why we play Super Rod. We'll get a Shaman. Now, this is the question is whether we bench the Yveltal before. It's almost always going to be a dead bench space, and I'm afraid I think we have to, just because our hand could potentially be terrible if we don't draw well from this. So I'm going to go ahead and bench it and hopefully get some Combees to bench down. That is not really what we got, but AZ is basically a Bianca. So we'll try and bench the Zubat, also bench Unknown. AZ better than Giovanni's Scheme in this situation because hopefully, if I really need to, I can Giovanni Scheme for the 20 extra damage. And I also draw 1 more card with Shaman, so let's draw 3 over 2. We'll take that. We don't get another Combee, unfortunately. So I think this is the point where we do kind of have to dig with Unknown. It's Farewell Letter ability. Please don't show me that again. Hopefully we can draw Combees. Get Sycamore, which is cool. We won't bench... We'll draw 1 more time with Farewell Letter, actually. And hope again for a Combee or a way to get it. That's probably the worst thing we could have drawn. Other than another Vespiquen. I think at this point we do bench the Feebas because it will help us get a Vespiquen back later. It's another cool thing with Milotic, it's really versatile. Don't even know if Milotic's 100% in the deck or not. But we won't bench 1 more Zubat because we need that bench space very badly for Combees. And also you only really ever get 1 Crobat line game out a game. Sorry about that. Because you want them in your discard, you don't really use the bat damage too much, but getting 1 out's fine. It's cool to have the 20 or 30 damage when you want it. So, my opponent is playing Bronzor with, I believe that's Faded Town. Don't really know what kind of Bronzor variant he's playing at the moment, but in general, Vespiquen could struggle a bit with stuff like Aegislash. I don't play Hexmaniac. Hexmaniac is a card I didn't really talk about, which I think is still really good in this deck. I just never personally found space for it. He's going to draw cards with Shaman. I see a Lugia, which I'm not too worried about. He could knock out my Combi here though, which would be disappointing. And would almost certainly put me on a very back foot. But hopefully he doesn't draw into a switching card from this Sycamore. If he does, we're struggling, but we'll make the most of it, I'm sure. If he doesn't, we probably get to kill a Bronzor, which is nice. It would stop some energy acceleration, and we actually live a turn. We get Combi now, which is very sad because we were one card off, and now we would have two Vespiquens this turn, but we'll make do with what we have. This will put us up to, I believe, 6 Pokemon in discard? Yeah. We get a whole load of unknowns that are totally unusable for the fact that I have no bench space, so I need to kind of consider what to fodder here. And I have lost 2 Golbat, so I'm not too hopeful of ever using Golbat as a good strategy to get damage down. So I'll send up the Zubat. This also gives me, if it doesn't get knocked out, it gives me a free retreater. Should I need it. So I will play it this way. Hopefully it does get knocked out. It's one of those situations where you actually want it to get knocked out. I'll actually bench one unknown R, maybe draw of it once before Sycamore and maybe not. It's a hard call. If you draw something that is totally unplayable, that is wouldn't be ideal. If you drew like a VS Seeker, that would suck horribly. So we just get the Bronzor out. And it was unfortunate we couldn't kill the Bronzor, but we were fortunate for the Combi to survive a turn at the same time. So he's going to Lysander. That's kind of to be expected. We do have another Combi on the bench though, so we're not struggling too much. To start smartly powering up the Aegislash. So at the moment this Lugia's hitting for 20, 40, 60, 80. He does need another energy, and it doesn't seem like he had it, so that's huge for us. It means we have a turn to actually go to do some work on this Lugia. We do actually draw the Golbat off the top. Not too sure how helpful that is. We're on 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 in the discard. That'll put it 1, 2, 3. Okay, we will use it. Put 20 damage on the Lugia, because we are basically racing to do as much damage as we can this turn. Hopefully knock it out. That puts it on 150, which means I need 13 Pokemon in the discard. That Sycamore helps a lot. I get a Battle Compressor as well, and I get the energy that I need. Unfortunately, it's another Dark. I was kind of hoping for a Vespiquen in DC, so I could maybe save this Vespiquen, evolve this Combi to a Vespiquen, and knock it out with a DC Vespiquen, so that when this does come up and inevitably knock out my current Vespiquen with Dark Energies, with DC, I could just promote Dark Energy Vespiquen and knock it out that way. But can we even knock it out this turn? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We needed 13, Battle Compressor equals 13, which is great. Let's do that then. We will keep Milotic in the deck and 1 Crobat. We no longer need Zubats. Those 3 are ideal. So we will attach Dark Energy. Unfortunate not to see a single DC up until this point. It's a very, very good card. There's not much more to say about that card. It's always been in the format for some reason, and it's always been strong. Will be revenge for knockout. Perfect knockout. It was. I end up seem to get in a lot of this deck. I don't know if it's luck or just how the deck runs. We get a Vespiquen off the prizes, which sucks a bit, I guess. No, it's not too bad actually. You'd like to get it later on, because there's a chance that we might have to Sycamore this hand, but we have teammates and we're probably going to be teammates in this turn. So we hope our opponent doesn't have a switching card, is basically what we're doing right now. We do see that he plays Zoroark, so it's likely that Floatstones are in the deck, because that's the only reason you'd actually use a Zoroark to stand in and retreat for free. Sycamores, you'd be super unlucky not to get a Floatstone or switching card at this point. We'll see if he does. It means attaching it to Bronzong instead of Zora this turn, which is fine. Do see a Battle Compressor. If I had the switching card, I'd be snap playing that, I think, so, because that is the most important card for him to draw at this point. He's going to take his time to Battle Compressor first, which is probably the right thing to do. You always want to see what's in your deck before you play something that is guaranteed. That's one of the staple rules of Pokemon. If he does actually knock out this Vespiquen, we have a fairly weak turn in which we... oh, he doesn't. And we draw a DC. That is actually insane, because we not only get to use this Vespiquen, we also get to Lysander. I believe I've played a discarded Lysander. Yeah, we get to Lysander a Shaman and just knock that out for free. So let's grab one of those. Let's grab Lysander. Lysander up Shaman. Don't really know how this works. Does that do it? Yeah, there we go. Retreat, all important retreat. To a DC Vespiquen. Now he needs a Lysander. Probably has it, but this is definitely our best route to victory. So we're gonna roll with it and be revenged for knockout. 150 damage again. And you see, we're holding on to this Ultra Ball. It's going to get us a Milotic. That's pretty much what it's guaranteed to get us. And maybe our route to victory is just knocking out the two things on the bench. He actually top decks the Floatstone, which is super unfortunate. But well, let's see if he has the Vespiquen or Lysander in hand in order to capture out my Vespiquen on bench. And he does, so we have a game. Should be interesting. Now, it's at this point that I want to see how many Vespiquen I've used, because my route to victory could be Lysandering two stuff on the bench. Two things on the bench, and I see that I've only played two. So, we'll send up Vespiquen with free retreat. I do draw another DC, not entirely relevant, but useful, because I get to just put this down. So, at this point, I think my route to victory is probably best served Lysandering two things. So I'll be using Milotic to get a Lysander this turn. Whilst I can, I think I'll Battle Compressor to make my odds of drawing that last Vespiquen just a little bit better. You can see I do have one left in deck. We'll filter out some of the less useful cards. So, sorry about the scroll, but we're definitely not going to be needing Bridget. And we probably won't be needing Sycamore unless we have a certain number of cards in deck, which can't really tell because of the scroll. Oops. 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Get rid of 3. So actually I think it's right to keep Lysander. We'll not be using the dark, I don't think. We're basically ditching the strategy of actually knocking out this Aegislash and going with this instead. So that is done. We're going to Ultra Ball. We'll keep the teammates because it will guarantee us a Vespiquen another turn. And get the Milotic. He Sparkling Ripples, gets back any card from your discard. I would like to play that ability. And we'll get back Lysander, which puts us on one more prize to win the game. We'll take the Zoroark, I think, because it's an attacking threat. If he attacks with it, he loses though, so maybe it's alright not to, but I think taking the Zoroark is the right play here. Both are equally fine, but we'll do the Zoroark. So it will be revenge for knockout. Take one prize. Maybe it's the prize Vespiquen. 50-50. Sometimes we're lucky. So unless we get judged, we pretty much have game in hand. Unless he has enhanced hammer, in which case we're actually kind of struggling a bit, and we need to top deck and maybe not even Ultra Ball. Ultra Ball would do it, which would get us a Shaman and increase our odds of drawing into it. But we shall see. So we see he plays Skyfield, which is quite funny considering he actually really has nothing on the bench. But so I agree with Skyfield in metal decks, obviously. So he Ultra Balls for a Bronzong just to discard it. Smart play. Doesn't really matter if he benches stuff though right now, but it would limit the ways that I could knock things out. Maybe with a Muscle Banded Yvetto, I believe it has 50 HP, so, or Muscle Banded Shaman EX. Just limits it a little bit. So I don't mind that at all. He starts attaching to the Bronzong. No reason not to. He's not going to really power anything else up. He is always going to be having this Aegislash up front. We do know that with that Sycamore we have won the game because we have the Vespiquen in hand already, so hopefully this did showcase the deck nicely. The one thing I was really happy about was it showcased the Milotic that I've been raving on about, because I know I've still not seen it in any other people's list, and I think it's an absolutely insane card. So I'm going to Vespiquen for Lysander, take this last prize of the game. So even with Aegislash blocking us all game, we managed to play around it with no real hard counters, other than just killing the stuff around it. So hopefully, combined with the analysis of the deck and this battle video, gave you a bit of an idea of what Vespiquen's about if you didn't already. I know a lot of people do, and a lot of people think this deck is easy to play, and in a sense it is, but because of all the different things you can do with it, I actually find it sometimes very challenging and fun deck to play. So I definitely recommend it. If you're in the UK, try it for the upcoming cities. I guess the same applies for the US, although I'm not too sure about the schedule. So thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.